Hello, my name is Chris Fry and I'd like to speak to you about a comparison of pre- and post-ganglionic nerve stimulation of the pig and rat bladder. There are no disclosures to make about this study. The range of frequencies whereby post-ganglionic fibres to detrusor smooth muscle generate contractions has been well characterised in many species, including humans. But much less is known about the frequency range for pre-ganglionic fibres, and if the intramural ganglia exert any frequency-dependent modulation. The aim of the study was to compare the dynamic range of pre- and post-ganglionic frequencies using a large animal model, a pig, and a small laboratory animal, a rat. 3 types of preparation were used. A pre-ganglionic stimulation of the pelvic nerve in pigs and rats, pre- and post-ganglionic stimulation together of the bladder wall in the pig, and post-ganglionic stimulation of detrusor strips, again in pigs and rats. Ex vivo arterially perfused pig bladders were used for pelvic nerve and bladder wall stimulation. In vivo urethane anaesthetized rats were also used for pelvic nerve stimulation. At the end of the experiments, bladder strips were cut from the bladders and tied to isometric transducers to record tension. This slide shows some of the pictures of the preparations, and in particular panels A, B and C show the arterially perfused pig bladder. In panel A and B is shown the isolation of the pelvic nerve, and in panel B a cuff electrode around the pelvic nerve. In panel C is shown the arrangement for a bladder wall stimulation directly using a large platinum iridium mesh electrode. Sample traces are shown below from pelvic nerve stimulation on the left-hand side as appropriate for panels A and B, bladder wall stimulation in the middle as appropriate for panel C, and on the right muscle strip generated responses from isolated strips of tissue which are not illustrated here. All of these responses were abolished by 2% lidocaine, indicating they were nerve-mediated responses. This panel shows some of the characteristics of the pig bladder preparations. In the left-hand panel is shown the control frequency response curve as the black symbols, and shows the dynamic range between about 1 and 40 Hz. The other data are obtained from strips, EFS, bladder wall stimulation and pelvic nerve stimulation in the presence of the ganglion blocker hexamethonium. It completely abolished pelvic nerve stimulated responses, had no effect on detrusor strips, and an intermediate effect on bladder wall stimulation. Shown on the right are frequency response curves in the absence of hexamethonium for all 3 preparations, and were statistically insignificant. This panel shows equivalent records made from a rat bladder. The top panel, panel A, is shown pre-ganglionic stimulation through the pelvic nerve, and in panel B, post-ganglionic stimulation through muscle strip experiments. And again, the 2 curves were superimposable. There was no difference between the frequency response curves pre- and post-ganglionic stimulation.